Oh, hey, hi, it's Brooks with Character Design Forge. Do you ever look in the mirror and say, the person looking back just doesn't have very good character design? There's just a sense of appeal that's missing. Yeah, me neither. But hey, creating a character design that's based off of yourself can be not only a really fun exercise, but a great way to say something about yourself. Maybe you've seen artists do this for their own personal icon or for biocomics, and you'd like to go through the same process. Creating a character based off of yourself is a blend of self-portrait, character design, caricature, and it's an interesting balancing act. For one thing, you sort of need to both look at yourself honestly, dig deep a little, and find not just what you look like, but something that reflects you and your personality or aesthetic. Now, character design is by its nature fairly heightened, so while some people like to create really grounded, accurate representations of themselves, others like to go in a fantasy, sci-fi, or superhero direction, turning themselves into something else. Now, there's an element of marketing or branding that's happening here, which, before your eyes completely glaze over for using those words, it's just about how you present yourself. And we do that already by how we dress and groom and act, but this adds another layer where, if you wanted to, you could even be dishonest. Another aspect that honestly was a little intimidating for me is that as an artist, you're both creating yourself and saying something about your artistic style. So for example, if I drew myself as this grizzled gunmetal space marine, it just wouldn't really make sense with the precedent that I've set before with my work. And if you have difficulty with accurately portraying yourself or getting your likeness down at least, it can be a good idea to try and go through this process using another person first to really break them down to a recognizable essence. Now for me in this video, you'll see that I went through this process not only for myself, but for my wife Tay as well. There's an additional aspect to this too, where you can kind of psych yourself out. You're thinking about how the way you portray yourself comes across to other people. Like if the way that I drew myself, for example, was like an incredibly muscular frame and chiseled jaw and everything, wouldn't that make me, the artist, drawing me, look really conceited? And I do see most people combating this by making their portrayal of themselves really goofy or awkward. And I think that's a good solution, but at the same time, do have some self-esteem for yourself. So for my current little avatar of myself, you may have already seen a previous version of this that I made for the Character Design Forge patch notes a few months ago, and my plan was to use him more. The primary problem though is that, for whatever reason, I kind of gave myself the Wanderlumen, my mascot's physique, which I just don't really have. It's not an accurate representation. There's nothing wrong with looking this way, but it just wasn't really authentic, just like it wouldn't be to make myself super overly muscular. If I skip like a week at the gym, I go full scrawny. So the old version didn't really lend itself to this sort of big gestural, lively movements that I wanted this guy to have. So as far as character design goes, more emphasis on the head and hands and a de-emphasis on everything else was really what I was looking for. I played with this a lot and I landed on something that I'm a lot more excited about, and it just feels more like me. Like I said, I also did this for my wife Tay. Ever since we hit the 100,000 subscriber mark, she's been taking on a lot more behind the scenes here to help out, and she's a really talented storyteller and writer to boot, so along with some projects that we're in the beginnings of, I thought I'd add her to the roster here. And this is actually a design I did quite a while ago, and that idea that I mentioned of going through the process with someone else was really invaluable for me, because I just wasn't doing well at capturing my own likeness in previous versions of self-portrait. And of course, Tay's character here is even more simplified than my own, but I think it ultimately fits. After styling the initial version of her with that monochromatic pink, we ended up going with her favorite colors of yellow and mint green, and added a little bit of polka dotting there as well. If you've never gone through this process before of creating a self-portrait character design, even if it's intimidating to try, I think you really should. And if you've created one of these in the past but feel like it doesn't really live up to your artistic style or aesthetic or even quality, I think it's really important that you kind of go back and try again. And maybe over the years you'll develop a sort of portfolio of previous icons of yourself. Kind of the same way that artists tend to do self-portraits of themselves over time. I hope this video helped and you subscribe if you haven't already. You can keep my forge burning on Patreon at patreon.com/BagelDenizen, and you can follow along on Instagram, Twitter, and Twitch, also at BagelDenizen. Thanks so much for watching, and have fun creating.